What's up, Mets fans? Welcome back to the channel, and no intro today, folks. We are cutting right to the chase. All I ask is that if you end up enjoying this kind of Mets content and you want to see more great Mets content like this, don't hesitate to smash that like and subscribe button. As always, folks, we're less than 100 subs away from 16K on the channel. Smash those buttons. Let me know your thoughts in the comments below about the latest Juan Soto sweepstakes, and let's dive right in, everybody, because look, we all know the story. Juan Soto rejected a $440 million extension from the Washington Nationals just over the past 48 hours or so. It's only been a couple days now that we discussed our first video on Soto. Make sure to check that out if you haven't already, folks. Thank you guys so much for the support, and if you want a complete deep dive on Soto and his game, that is a video for you. Links down below as always, folks, in the description. Make sure to check it out after this one. But we have a significant Juan Soto Mets connection update here, and this all comes over the past 24 hours, folks, and it starts with what you see here from S&Y. Yes, it is from Andy Martino, but as much as Andy frustrates me, he is usually on the money when it comes to certain reporting. He broke the Taijuan Walker signing a couple years ago. He's broken numerous things, and as you see here, he has reported that according to multiple industry sources, the Nationals do actually view the New York Mets as one of few teams that can be a feasible option via trade. Now, of course, this does not mean that anything is guaranteed, but what it does mean is that the Mets are in fact an option and will not be eliminated just because of the fact that they're in the NL East. And then you also have this report here from John Heyman that basically just reaffirms that now the Mets and the Yankees are already starting to explore. They're starting to show interest. And outside these reports that you see here, links down below if you want to check out those articles, guys, as always, after this one. But then we have the latest report, and that comes from Jeff Passan of ESPN. Jeff, who's known as one of the most prominent analysts, one of the most prominent writers out there in baseball, breaking news, all that fun stuff. Him and Ken Rosenthal really 1A, 1B a lot of the times. But Jeff, during the MLB draft yesterday that was broadcasted that you saw on ESPN, he came out and said the following, that yes, there are 4 teams right now that are currently in the Juan Soto sweepstakes and actually have a realistic shot based on the type of not just prospect capital they have, but current assets on their roster. And that includes the likes of the St. Louis Cardinals, the San Diego Padres, the New York Yankees, and yes, the New York Mets. So when I saw that initial announcement, that wording here from Jeff Passan, that continued to get me pumped up because look, this feels like a fever dream right now. I don't know about you guys. Juan Soto in less than 2 weeks away from the MLB trade deadline. These are going to continue to pick up. It's going to continue to stay hot and steamy. And let's not forget, this is literally Juan Soto. This is a 23-year-old phenom that is arguably the best player in the league already. And for all the people that are knocking this man because of his 240 average this year, with all due respect, please do your homework on what it means to be a great baseball player and then not look at an anomaly of a 240 average this year when my man still has a 900 OPS, has on pace to be a on-base king like he always is, a roughly 500 slugging when this guy has been a career 300 average hitter. Stop downing him because he's having one low year with his average. It's because of the lineup around him. It's directly in part, and this guy's getting walked so much as is. I mean, seriously, let's talk about Juan Soto a little bit forward though, folks, because when you look at the likes of the Padres, the Cardinals, the Yankees, what do they have in common? They all have, to varying degrees, a strong prospect pool. And what have the Mets done in this year's draft, which I will actually be describing later today, so make sure to stay tuned for that. I'll expand further here later in the video. But we see here the Mets, they made a big pick in this year's draft, right? And acquiring the best catcher and best bat available, that being in Parada. And it's going to be really interesting to see how they evaluate the future of Francisco Alvarez. Now, I don't expect Alvarez to go anywhere, but you do have to wonder now with the Mets bolstering more and having a phenomenal draft thus far that I'll be explaining a little bit here in the video, on how are they going to evaluate the rest of their prospect pool at the moment, because the Mets entering this year's draft were ranked as the 16th best prospect pool in baseball, which is a long way from what they originally were as a bottom feeder thanks to the Brody Van Wagenens and the Wilpons of the world. But you see the Yankees, of course, are ahead of them a little bit in prospect rankings. You see the Padres up there too. The Cardinals, they've been up and down with their prospect pool, but they do have some nice pieces. Depth-wise, though, I don't trust them as much as I do some other contending teams. But when you look at the likes of the Cardinals, for instance, I don't see a world where they can really pony up enough of a strong offer to land Soto, in my humble opinion. This is putting all bias aside. I don't trust that prospect pool in the likelihood as much as I do the Padres, the Dodgers, the Yankees, the Mets. And the reason why the Dodgers aren't mentioned yet is because Passy didn't mention him. He's not one of the four. They are not one of the four teams, rather, that's in this mix. I'd imagine that they will be, because they have over $100 million coming off the books in this next offseason. Trey Turner's a free agent, so they have financial flexibility should they wish to seek it. So I fully expect the Dodgers to be a top team going after Juan Soto. They just aren't reportedly in it yet, but we can expect that to change over the next week or so leading up to the trade deadline. But going back now to prospect depth, you have the likes of the Cardinals. Okay, not too concerned about them. If anything, they would land him on the short term and surely would not be able to extend that man, and I feel fairly confident in saying that. Then you have the likes of the New York Yankees, for instance. The Yankees, they have prospect depth, but they have a huge question with Aaron Judge right now. And should the Yankees go out and acquire someone like Juan Soto, Aaron Judge already feels like there's a strong 50-50 chance he not just hits the market, but leaves the Yankees this offseason. That only amplifies further. You would imagine that if the Yankees, in a scenario where they trade for Soto, have Judge available, and then naturally the Mets will be heavily in the Aaron Judge sweepstakes this free agency. So in my opinion, when it comes down to the Mets, it's the matter of they're going to have a phenomenal shot at landing one big name star in either this year's free agency and or trade market, or as soon as this year's trade deadline. And when looking at the San Diego Padres, yes, they have a plethora of capital that they can part with prospect wise. They do have some strong depth, but what is the likelihood that a deal like that can happen? Because the Padres are still not a team that I feel confident saying that they will be able to pony up an extension for Soto when he's available in a couple years. And are they willing to give up that much of a prospect pool, including a guy like Mackenzie Gore, who's a nice young southpaw stud of a starting pitcher for them? Are they willing to give up all these assets just for, at most, more than likely, a couple pennant runs over these next couple years until he's a free agent? Like, do they want to give up that much for only, say, 3 years of Juan Soto? That's a great question. Now, they may or they may not, and if they especially don't and feel they cannot extend Soto, because I surely do not believe that they can with having Machado and Tatis locked up, $700 million infield, then you look at the Mets here, and that's the beauty. The Mets have the financial flexibility. They're basically the only team here that can pretty much take on a big contract if need be, and the likes of Corbin or Strasburg. They have the prospect depth that Andy Martino said from the initial report that the Nationals view the Mets as a potential fit. The Mets would have to part with an Alvarez, a Beatty, and Mauricio, but maybe, just maybe, as I mentioned in my previous video, they can get away with doing a deal without giving up someone like Alvarez. Again, this is a very fluid situation. This is a hectic one, no less, guys, but I just want to get this quick video out for you all, a big update on the Mets here and what can potentially be had in landing Juan Soto, because nothing's a guarantee. There's a great shot that Juan Soto doesn't even get traded this year's deadline, because naturally in the offseason you will have more suitors than you will right now leading up to this year's deadline. A lot of teams will be involved, but what I do know again is that this thing is not stopping anytime soon. The Mets do in fact have a realistic shot at Juan Soto, more than maybe just what you thought a day or two ago. It's that crazy. It's changing every single second. And until we find out that the Mets are completely out of the sweepstakes, we're going to go under the belief that yes, they have a shot. It's been reported that they certainly do have one. Now let's just see how far this shot can take them, potentially landing one of, if not the best star in all of baseball at this juncture. But Mets fans, that'll do it for this video. So let me know all your thoughts in the comments below on the latest Juan Soto update, as the Mets are in fact not just of interest, but are in these sweepstakes among a select few teams. So the Mets do have these competitors. Do you think the Mets can oust the like of the Yankees, the Dodgers, the Padres, the Cardinals? I know the Dodgers aren't reportedly mentioned by passing yet, but you'd have to imagine they're going to be in that mix, as they always are with every top player out there via trade or free agency. Regardless of what you think is going to be Soto's future, will landing with the Mets or not, please make sure to let me know your thoughts down below, as always, folks. And again, if you find yourself enjoying this kind of Mets content and you want to see more great Mets content like this, you know what to do by now. Smash that like and subscribe button, sharing this video with your friends, on the notification bell, all those great things. And stay tuned, folks. I will be live again today, right around 6 p.m. Eastern time, for upwards of 2 hours leading up to this year's Home Run Derby. As you see here, breaking down all the latest trade rumors, expanding further, answering questions, doing a Q&A with you guys in the chat on all the latest rumors with Soto, Benintendi, Mancini. I mean, everyone that the Mets have shown interest in and can potentially do going forward, along with recapping this year's big draft and how amazing it has been so far for the Mets through the first couple rounds and the rounds going forward. Make sure to stay tuned for that. Click the link down below if you want to check it out, have your notifications on. Thank you guys all so much for watching, and I will talk to you guys all again real soon. Let's go Mets, baby.